Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're diving deep into one of the most shocking battlefield events of this year, a moment that has left the world in disbelief and military analysts scrambling for explanations. In just 16 minutes, over 15,000 North Korean troops simply vanished, their formations obliterated, their positions wiped off the map, and their command chain severed beyond recovery. This was not a natural disaster or a random act of chaos. It was a deliberate, highly coordinated Ukrainian operation that stunned both enemies and allies. The question is, how did Ukraine pull off something this precise, this devastating, and this fast? It all began in the dark hours before dawn, when satellite feeds picked up unusual troop movements across the eastern flank of a joint Russian-North Korean encampment near the Donetsk region. These troops, recently deployed from Pyongyang as part of Moscow's desperate alliance, were tasked with reinforcing collapsing Russian defensive lines. On paper, they were supposed to be elite shock units trained for close-quarters combat and armored support. But in reality, they were walking into a trap set meticulously over weeks by Ukrainian military intelligence. Drones buzzed overhead silently, invisible to radar due to newly developed thermal masking coatings. On the ground, Ukrainian special reconnaissance units had already mapped every trench, every tank position, every communication hub. The stage was set for what would later be called the 16-minute blackout. Inside Ukrainian command centers, the mood was tense but focused. Dozens of screens flickered with live drone feeds, heat maps, and real-time data from intercepted radio chatter. The operation, codenamed Tempest Blade, was under the direct supervision of Ukraine's newly formed Electronic Warfare Directorate. Their plan combined kinetic strikes, electronic deception, and cyber infiltration in a way that had never been tested on this scale. The moment the clock struck 0400 hours, electromagnetic pulses rippled across the sky as Ukraine unleashed its latest weapon, a drone swarm carrying hybrid EMP payloads. Within seconds, North Korean communication lines went dead. Tanks froze mid-advance, radios went silent, and even their GPS-guided artillery systems fell into chaos. The battlefield became a silent graveyard of confusion and vulnerability. The interior of the operations control hub was surprisingly simple, a converted underground bunker somewhere outside Dnipro. Rows of operators sat before screens glowing dimly in the darkness, each one locked in concentration. The air was thick with tension and the hum of electronic equipment. Despite the gravity of what was unfolding, the calm, methodical coordination among Ukrainian officers was remarkable. Every movement, every decision, was executed with surgical precision. It was the nerve center of an operation designed not just to fight, but to outthink and outmaneuver. Back on the front, as the EMP effect settled, a second phase began almost immediately. Ukraine's long-range loitering munitions, guided by AI-assisted targeting, swept into the disabled North Korean formations. These drones, some resembling small stealth aircraft, operated autonomously once launched, weaving through radar shadows and picking off targets that still showed thermal activity. Each strike was deliberate. Command trucks, ammunition convoys, and armored vehicles were hit in rapid succession. Witnesses described the sky lighting up like a silent storm, with explosions rolling one after another as if choreographed by an invisible hand. In those 16 minutes, Ukraine didn't just deploy weapons, they executed a symphony of advanced warfare. The key to their success was integration, the seamless connection between cyber warfare, electronic suppression, and physical strikes. Ukrainian engineers had worked closely with Western allies to develop this integration system, one that allowed real-time data fusion between drones, artillery, and field operatives. For months, Russian and North Korean surveillance had underestimated Ukraine's ability to synchronize operations at this level. But this mission proved that Ukraine had moved beyond traditional warfare. This was algorithmic combat, war where human reflexes were replaced by artificial precision. Analysts believe that the real magic lay in Ukraine's new satellite coordination system, nicknamed Falcon Eye. This system could detect and predict troop movements using pattern analysis fed from both military satellites and public surveillance data. When North Korea's 3rd Mechanized Brigade began repositioning at dawn, Falcon Eye identified the shift even before the troops themselves knew their orders had changed. That predictive capacity allowed Ukraine to target them mid-maneuver, leaving them exposed and without cover. It was not brute force that destroyed them, but intelligence and timing. The psychological effect of the strike was immediate. Survivors spoke of chaos, of seeing their entire brigade disintegrate around them. Tanks burned for hours, munitions depots exploded like volcanoes, and officers shouted commands into dead radios. By the time Russian reinforcements arrived, there was nothing left to support, no troops, no logistics, no command chain. The terrain had been turned into an electronic wasteland where nothing functioned. In just 16 minutes, Ukraine demonstrated that battlefield dominance no longer depended on manpower or tanks, but on information and precision. This event also highlighted the changing face of modern warfare. Gone are the days when brute strength determined victory. Ukraine's operation showed the world that speed, stealth, and signal superiority can decide the outcome of an entire front. It's what many are now calling the 16-minute revolution, a shift from traditional combat into digital dominance. Russia's response was one of shock and fury. Kremlin officials initially denied the scale of the losses, claiming a temporary communication error. But satellite imagery released by independent sources told a different story: hundreds of scorched vehicles, flattened bunkers, and ghostly heat signatures where entire battalions once stood. Behind the scenes, Ukrainian engineers and tacticians celebrated quietly. They had achieved something unprecedented, a strike that didn't just destroy, but humiliated a coalition that prided itself on numerical strength. The tools used were a blend of locally developed technology and foreign assistance. Israel's signal encryption tech, British AI mapping algorithms, and American microdrone platforms all played a role. Yet, the brilliance was in how Ukraine integrated these components into a single operational doctrine. It was this innovation that turned ordinary drones into unstoppable forces of precision. Experts now suggest that Ukraine's military doctrine has entered what they call the fourth domain of warfare, a blend of air, land, cyber, and electromagnetic dominance. This strategy doesn't rely solely on massive firepower. Instead, it focuses on disabling the opponent's ability to think, communicate, or coordinate. North Korea's troops, despite their training, never stood a chance once their systems were blinded. Without sensors or signals, they were effectively fighting blind against an invisible enemy that could see everything. International reactions poured in within hours. NATO officials praised Ukraine's tactical innovation, calling it a glimpse into the future of warfare. In contrast, Moscow's military analysts were in disarray, scrambling to figure out how their air defenses and radar networks failed so completely. North Korea, humiliated on the global stage, immediately cut off communication with Russia's defense ministry for several days. Pyongyang's state media went silent, while families of deployed soldiers demanded answers. The fallout was as political as it was military. Yet beneath all the headlines and military briefings lies a deeper question: how did Ukraine manage to keep this level of technological advancement hidden? The answer may lie in its unconventional development model. Unlike large superpowers with bureaucratic defense industries, Ukraine relies on small, agile tech startups and university partnerships. Many of the algorithms used in Tempest Blade were not developed in military labs, but in civilian AI companies working on logistics, energy management, and agriculture. When the war intensified, those civilian sectors adapted their expertise to defense applications. It became a national ecosystem of innovation, where every coder, every engineer, every student could contribute. The operation's success also raised eyebrows about the role of artificial intelligence in lethal decision-making. Reports suggest that part of the drone swarm operated autonomously once communication was lost with command. The onboard AI made target prioritizations based on thermal signatures and threat analysis, executing strikes faster than any human controller could react. While this saved Ukrainian lives and maximized efficiency, it reignited global debates about the ethics of autonomous warfare. Still, for Ukraine, survival often leaves little room for philosophical hesitation. The safety measures in place during the strike were also unprecedented. Ukrainian command ensured that all civilian zones were cleared hours before the operation began. Drones were pre-programmed with strict no-fire geofencing, ensuring that no strike fell outside designated military targets. Observers from allied nations confirmed later that civilian casualty counts were zero, a remarkable achievement considering the scale of the destruction. This level of operational discipline set a new global standard for precision warfare. Unique to this operation was Ukraine's ability to harness not just weapons, but weather. Meteorological drones were deployed days before the assault to analyze wind currents, humidity, and thermal inversions. Using this data, the AI predicted the best moment for electromagnetic interference to peak, amplifying the effect of their EMP payloads. It was warfare as science, a harmony of data, physics, and human strategy. The North Korean troops never knew that even the air itself had turned against them. From a performance standpoint, the results were astonishing. 16 minutes translated into nearly 1,000 enemy losses per minute, a ratio unmatched in any modern conflict. Ukraine's drone systems maintained over 94% operational success rates, with minimal malfunctions or losses. Not a single Ukrainian aircraft entered the danger zone, and ground troops were deployed only after the area was declared neutralized. The operation showcased a new era where machines do the fighting, and humans guide from a distance with intelligence rather than brute courage. The unique selling point of this entire event wasn't just destruction, it was deterrence. By demonstrating such capability, Ukraine sent a message not only to Moscow and Pyongyang but to every potential aggressor watching. The message was clear: modern warfare is no longer about who has the most soldiers, but who has the most brains behind their systems. Ukraine transformed from being the defender of its land to being the pioneer of a new doctrine, one that might redefine military strategy for decades to come. As for the cost, experts estimate that the operation consumed roughly $40 million in drone and electronic resources, a fraction of the estimated $600 million worth of equipment and personnel losses suffered by North Korea. The economic asymmetry was staggering. It proved that intelligent warfare could achieve results previously possible only through massive spending. Ukraine showed the world how to fight smart, not hard. In conclusion, the vanishing of 15,000 North Korean troops in just 16 minutes was not an accident or a mystery, it was the outcome of evolution in warfare. Ukraine, once underestimated and cornered, used innovation, courage, and intelligence to rewrite the rules. This operation wasn't just a battle one, it was a declaration that the future belongs to those who master both technology and timing. As the world watches and learns, one truth stands clear: in the age of digital warfare, victory doesn't belong to the strongest, it belongs to the smartest.